Welcome back to the Blitz here on San Antonio Sports Star 94.1 FM, AM 1250. Along with Joe Reinagle, I'm Jason Minix. It is game night, San Antonio. It doesn't feel like it's time for the Spurs to be playing, but it is opening night, so we got to bring in the best. Sean Elliott joining us now. And Sean, does it feel like it should be opening night for you?
No.
It's a man that wants to be back on vacation.
Yeah, we were just, when you get used to such a long vacation, it's always hard to go back. I don't feel like I'm ever ready, but I know the guys are.
Well, it's a weird season for me, Sean, and so I need a little help from you. All these young players, I know it's going to be a lot of development. Pop's going to really have to work this year as a head coach. What are your just initial thoughts on this very young ball club heading into the season?
Well, I think they're going to be fun to watch. There's a lot to look for going into this year. Right now, everybody's saying we're in a rebuilding year, and no question we're in a rebuilding season. But right now, I think the team is trying to find those future pieces. And when you look at our last couple of years, it seemed like we're just kind of treading water there, just trying to figure out if we had any more Manus or any Tonys out there, and we really didn't have that. So, obviously no Tim Duncans either. So, it was the appropriate time to kind of start rebuilding this team and seeing if you can find pieces like that, if you can find some other gems in the draft and develop those guys. And so I want to see, which players are going to be, around here for a long time and are going to be building blocks for possibly the next dynasty. So that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for the development and the growth of the young players, and that to me is exciting.
Sean Elliott joining us here on the Blitz, of course, Spurs legend and TV analyst. So speaking of the TV side, Sean, when was the last time you actually needed a roster for one of your broadcasts?
Last game, our exhibition game, and I'm like, wait, who is everybody? Because during the draft and then right after during Summer League, I was overseas, so I didn't get to see or watch any of the Summer League games. I got to watch the exhibition game the other night, but we had a lot of guys that didn't play very much. So I got to look at, some of our guys that have been here. Obviously Keldon and Devin Vassell are playing really good basketball, and I feel like it's going to be a breakout year for Josh Primo, even though it's only his second year. I think he has really great things in store for him. But, I really want to get a better look at, our draft picks and see how those guys are going to pan out.
Jeremy Sohan, I think it's going to be exciting every night to see what color his hair is going to be. And I figure you might take some tips from him and try some of those things. Have you thought about it?
No. If I'm dyeing my hair, Joe, I'm dyeing it black, and that's why I keep my hair short so no one can see the grays. So I'm not trying to go all crazy and sorbet and Neapolitan. I'm not going all kinds of crazy colors and flavors. I'm just going to keep it low key, man. When we have our hairstyles, and you know what I'm talking about. they're classic. You got to stay with the classic Joe Reinagle. I got to stay with the classic Sean Elliott, so I'm just going to keep it like it is, buddy.
Do you see, Sean, and you say that, Joe retires from television, he comes to work in radio, and he says he's going to do something different with his hair, and he's going to grow a beard or a goatee, and the goatee lasted about 4 days, started to itch, so he shaved, and his hair has not changed, although maybe a little less hairspray, maybe he's down to half gallon instead of a full gallon every day on the hairspray?
I think Joe Reinagle's hair has a life of its own. You could shave him bald one night, and the next morning he's going to wake up, and it's all going to be right back.
Dude, there's no razor going through all that.
Oh my goodness, Sean! Sean's always teased me about my hair. That's good. That's what we have. We have a special bond. All right, Sean, I want to get back to business because I've got a serious question for you. The way the NBA is shaping up, and I'm not talking just Spurs, but there are several other teams. Obviously, everybody's excited about Wembyama, I guess, and the draft class that's coming out, and a lot of people are saying that there's going to be a race to the bottom. As an old school guy, that's hard for me to swallow, Sean. I'm just kind of curious as to how you feel about that.
Oh, well, I don't like that. Obviously, I think that you try to, and first off, I don't like that. But you're talking to a guy who had the benefit of, getting 2 number 1 picks in David Robinson and Tim Duncan. So, I'm maybe a little biased, but I think that you should try to grow your team organically through the draft, and you should try to go out there and you should try to compete every night. I don't think it's the right mindset to go out there and purposely try to lose. And I know that our team isn't trying to do that. We've had talks with, the general manager, Brian Wright. I've talked to Pop. I know people within the organization very well. And this is not a situation where we're going to try to throw games. We're not trying to do that. We're trying to develop young players, going out there, trying to show them the proper way to compete. And then you let the chips fall where they may. And so I don't like teams that are going to purposely try to tank, maybe hold out their best players, play guys that shouldn't be in the league and not compete, because I just think that sets a bad precedent.
Obviously, nobody wants to tank, and nobody likes tanking, and the players aren't going to go out there and try to just bang one off the glass and miss on purpose. But lineups in the fourth quarter to close out a game could certainly tell if you're trying to win the game or not win the game. And you just brought up being the beneficiary of Tim Duncan. That year, David was hurt, and that 20 and 62 season. What was that like from a player perspective, knowing that, well, you could end up with the number 1 overall draft pick, and Tim Duncan would certainly change things, and he did. But from a player that went through a 20 and 62 season, what was that like, and how do you compare that to what this year could be like?
Well, I think you have the same mindset. As a player, you don't care that your team's trying to get the number 1 pick. You're trying to represent yourself as well, because you don't know if you're going to be around in that organization for a long period of time. Other teams are looking at you, so you're going out there and you're trying to play your best. We didn't have anybody on that team that year that was trying to throw games. Matter of fact, I think that's where guys like me and David and Avery Johnson were really impressed with Pop's coaching style, because that team played hard and they competed every single night. We just didn't have enough pieces at the time, and so that's what it comes down to. These guys are going to go out. They're not going to purposely throw bricks off the glass. They're trying to show their best self, and so they're going to go out and they're going to compete and they're going to play hard.
All right, Sean, refresh my memory a little bit, because going back to that, when that season, if I recall, Boston had the best odds of getting the number 1 pick that year. Am I right about that? Do you remember that?
Right. Yeah.
So the Spurs got lucky that the ping pong balls fell their way.
Oh, no question. I mean, we got lucky, but I think more than anything, there maybe a little bit of karma was on our side, because we had the injuries. It wasn't like they were holding me and David out on purpose. We were injured, and so our guys continued to play hard, and it wasn't like we were trying desperately to back into that number 1 spot.
It's going to be and again, such a long year. And if there was a year to completely bottom out, this is it with Wemby, or my goodness, if you don't get Wemby, you're stuck with that Scoot guy who looks like he could be a franchise changer. I mean, this draft class is so deep. Now would be the time, if you're going to have to hit the lottery to get there. I'm curious, as close as you are with Greg Popovich, what is his mindset coming in and getting to teach and coach these young fellas?
Well, he's preparing for the future, and he's trying to prepare players for the future. Like he said, he wants to make sure that if you come here as a young player, you're going to have a foundation that keeps you in the league for a long time. And so purposely losing is not part of that. You're trying to show guys how to prepare every night, how to be professional, how to go out there and win ball games and come with the right mindset every night. And so that's what he thrives on. He thrives on teaching these young guys how to play the game. He thrives on being an influence on these young guys away from the court, showing them that there's more than just basketball out there. And so, this is the type of team. Yeah, I mean, Pop would love to have Tim and Manu and Tony, young versions of those guys. But at the same time, he really thrives on teaching and watching these young guys thrive.
The great Sean Elliott on with us today. It's Spurs TV analyst and, of course, former Spur great. But, Sean, what I look at and what I've looked at over the years with guys that how they come in from the offseason. And I'm talking about two guys in particular, Devin Vassell and Keldon Johnson. Devin Vassell looks like he spent every day in the weight room 24/7. He has really bulked up and added some meat to his body. And then Keldon Johnson's lost some weight. So it looks like those two guys, and not that I'm asking because I know, those two guys are really bought in and want to get better this season. It will be fun to watch those two guys.
Yeah, and those guys are, I believe key pieces going forward because they bring the right mentality. They understand they've been here for a little bit, so they understand what the team expects of them. And with the way they've changed their bodies, Joe, I feel like it's a balance. Keldon had those 21 pounds or so that he could lose and still stay strong and physical. But it's going to help his overall longevity, and it's going to help him, especially late in ball games. He's not going to be carrying as much weight. You're fresher, a little bit more spry. And for a guy like Devin Vassell, he didn't need to add much. It's not like he was getting overwhelmed physically, but he's not only improved with his weight, but also with his scoring ability because he can score close to the basket. He's got a good mid-range game, and he can shoot the three ball. And it's apparent that he's worked on all that, and he understands that he's got to be a vital scoring threat this year. And I just love the aggression that he's playing with.
It's going to be fun. Opening night tonight down at the AT&T Center. No road trips yet, but I know Pop loves the road trip dinners. I'm curious, Sean, with this young roster, there's 5 or 6 guys that legally can't go get a glass of wine or a cold beer. How does Pop adjust the team dinners? Clearly he's not taking everybody to Chuck E. Cheese, but how's he going to share the love of wine with these kids that aren't old enough to drink?
Yeah, well, as we all know, none of us on this interview right now ever had a drink before legal age.
Of course not.
certainly not any Popovich-style wine. It was more Boone's Farm back in the day.
Yeah, I'm definitely not condoning that, but I think that if you're at a restaurant, it's a fine restaurant, and Pop wants one of his 19-year-olds to taste something. I don't think they're going to I don't think they're going to turn them down, and I don't think the restaurant's going to raise any objections as well. So I think their team dinners are going to be just fine.
And just for, I tell you what, Manu Ginobili tonight, the celebration for him at halftime kind of kicks off the 50-year anniversary for this Spurs franchise. That's going to be a lot of fun. And Manu, as you know, as you are, and David and Tim and Tony and everybody else, is so loved in this community. It ought to be a good time at halftime tonight.
It really should be. Manu's we've talked at him at length. You kind of run out of superlatives when it comes to him because we all loved him as a player. He's an exceptional human being, and so everything for him is well deserved. And knowing Manu, he's got a little bit of that Timmy in him too, where he just wants to. He's going to go out there, probably say a few words, and get it over with. And he wants to get on with the game, and he doesn't want it to really be about himself. So we're going to celebrate him once again. It's going to be a good time. Get a chance to see all these young players and some guys that are going to hopefully be around for another decade or so. So I'm looking forward to it. It's
going to be a lot of fun watching tonight. And, of course, the game down at the AT&T Center. Sean Elliott from Spurs Television. Spurs great. Always appreciate the time. Welcome to the start of the NBA season.
Yeah, I know. I don't know if I'm ready yet, but here it is.